This was a surprise. Not quite Burn It With Fire, but just wasn't for me. If you haven't read them yet, what are you doing? Oh, I feel bad for saying that. I kind of want to put it in F. Should I do it? Should I be mean? That sounds so bad. Okay, no. I have to take that out. I'm gonna be a hater. I'm putting it in F. Hated. Hi, I'm Sam. There's quite literally no one asking me to do this, but I should be cleaning up my library right now because I'm going to be hosting book club and it looks awful. But I want to. So instead, I'm going to tier rank every single book that I read in 2022, as well as share some of my reading stats with you. We're gonna start with stats from Storygraph and then Goodreads, and then we'll get into the tier ranking. For 2022, my reading goal was 100 books. 2022 was the first year I got back into reading after taking quite a hiatus. I hadn't really been reading for leisure in years. So I originally set my goal at 50 books, but then in January, I read 30 books because I was like, oh, reading is awesome. I forgot how awesome reading is. So then I set my goal for 100 and I ended up reading 154 books in 2022. So I met my goal. So yes, I read 154 books, 4,196 pages. Unsurprisingly, my most read mood was dark. So 103 of the 154 books was dark. And then mysterious, tense, emotional, reflective, adventurous, funny, sad, challenging, lighthearted, informative, and hopeful. It's so funny to me that 1 out of 154 books that I read, the mood was hopeful. I think that's pretty accurate. That's pretty funny. All right, and then for pace, I read mostly medium-paced books. It's not like I'm like, oh, this book seems like it's medium-paced. I think I'm gonna like it. I guess I just gravitate towards those kinds of books. And then fast-paced, 30%, and then slow, 18%. Page number, I read mostly books that are under 300 pages, and then I read some that are 300 to 500 pages, and then a small amount of books that are over 500 pages. I think that seems right. And then genres. Read a lot of different genres, but my most read obviously was horror, not surprising. I did read a lot of thrillers this year. I think for the longest time this year, I was like, I like thrillers. And then as I read more and more, I was like, I don't enjoy them as much as I thought I did. So I probably won't read as many thrillers this year because a lot of them were not that exciting for me. I also found out this year that I am a literary fiction girly, so I will definitely be reading a lot more of literary fiction in 2023. Contemporary, manga, of course, I'm going to continue reading a ton of manga. LGBTQIA+, mystery, fantasy. That's kind of surprising to me that I read that much fantasy. If you were to ask me if I liked fantasy, I would say no. Well, not that I would say no, but I'm just very picky with it. And like, whereas with horror, I'm pretty much down to like try anything. But with fantasy, I'm like, tell me what it's about. Like, what are the fantastical elements? I have a lot of like stipulations before I'll read a fantasy. We read some young adult and historical. So those are my top 10 genres. And then you can kind of see I read a smattering of books from other genres as well. So my most read authors were Haruichi Furutate. So he wrote the Haikyuu manga. And I've read basically like half the series this year because I watched the anime and the anime isn't finished. So I was like, I need to know how this series ends. So I read the manga, loved it. Junji Ito, not surprising. I am a freaking slut for Junji Ito. Koogi, who wrote Killing Stalking, which was on my best books of 2022 list. Love Koogi. Will definitely be reading anything that they write moving forward. Shuzo Oshimi, I did read a lot of him this year. I actually didn't like a lot of what I read from him, but Blood on the Tracks is a masterpiece, and I will definitely be collecting and finishing that. Amelia Gray, another author that I'm a slut for. Miranda July, another author that I'm a slut for. Bayon Duck wrote Painter of the Night, which I just discovered this year. Great series. Paul Tremblay, Kristen Arnett, and Nick Hutter, which are 3 authors that I think if I see a new book of theirs in the bookstore, I would consider purchasing it. For sure, Kristen Arnett, I really like her writing. Paul Tremblay and Nick Hutter, I have a little bit more of a sordid relationship with, but I liked some of what they write. And then it looks like my average rating was 3.72 stars. I don't think I read a lot of inherently bad books. It's just that I was sort of fumbling around trying to figure out what I really like. So I think my average rating will be higher in 2023. So now another really cool piece of data that story graph generated was a mood map. If you read a more lighthearted book, it pushes the line up, and if you read a darker book, it pushes the line down. So this is really funny for me because, again, since I was learning what kind of books I like this year, I knew I would like horror, but I was also trying a bunch of different other stuff. So in January, it's still pretty low. It starts out pretty low, but then as the months progress, it just gets lower and lower. And then by April, I think that's really when I started to figure out, like, okay, these are the kinds of books I like. And then that sucker just stayed completely flatlined until the end of the year. So that was really funny to me. Okay, now on to Goodreads. So my shortest book that I read was Hellboy Krampusnacht, which was a comic that is 36 pages. And then the longest book that I read was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. That was a pretty thick boy. Then it looks like the average book length I read in 2022 was 259 pages. My most shelved book was The Memoirs of a Geisha, which this was a reread for me, but looks like almost 3 million people also have shelved this book. And then the least shelved book that I read was Only the Cat Knows by Rian Meng, which is kind of surprising to me because I just picked this up at my local indie bookstore and this had a really striking synopsis and the cover's really cool, so I'm surprised that more people don't know about this book. And then my highest rated on Goodreads was Haikyuu, obviously, but I feel like manga readers are so biased because, and like I'm talking about myself too, like once I like a series, it's just like everyone is just 5 stars. 5 stars, love it, and I can't give it an objective rating anymore. So yeah, I think I rated like every Haikyuu manga I read 5 stars. So that doesn't surprise me because Haikyuu fans are insane, and I am including myself in that demographic. My first review of the year was The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. I really wanted to like this book. I had such high hopes. I anticipated it being a cross between Sorority Row and Daughters of the Moon, which I guess it kinda was, but somehow in the most boring way possible. The characters felt bland, the writing was passable, and I guessed the twist ending within the first few chapters. I thought that witchy sorority girls would be my thing, but which I think in some cases it is, but this just wasn't a hit for me. And then my last review of the year was This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I need an adult to explain this to me. It wasn't as much of a hit, but I still think it was pretty good and I would recommend it. Okay, so I think that's it for stats. So now let's move on to the tier ranking, which I had to make on this really kind of sketchy looking site. Just S through F tier. Obviously, like S is the best. This is like God tier. This is like, we are put on this earth to read these books type thing. A is, these are like 5-star bangers probably. They just don't have that like God tier quality. B is, I had high hopes for it. They could have been really good, but there was just like a couple issues I had. C is like, probably just like forgettable. Yeah, it was fine. D is like bad, didn't like it. F is like burn it with fire, you know? And then I have all of the books that I read in 2022. For the manga, I didn't pull every single volume that I read. I kind of just pulled one, and I'll just count the series as one because I don't want to have to tier rank 20 to 30 manga that I read this year. I'll just go by series. So yeah, this is looking pretty cute. I'm liking the look of this quite a bit. I think they're like in rough alphabetical order, and yeah, I think we should just let her rip. So we're gonna start out with It Chooses You by Miranda July. Already mentioned, I'm a total slut for Miranda July. So this wasn't my favorite Miranda July that I read this year, so I think I'm just gonna put this in A tier. But yeah, she's great. Everything I've read by her is like, nothing has been below like a B tier. Aesthetica was a book that I read towards the end of the year, and it was pretty good. I think it was probably like a B tier. It did fall a little flat, but it was still pretty good. Almonds by Won Pyong-son. I think that's also a B tier. That was pretty good. I read that earlier in the year. I have fond memories of it. I would recommend it. Audition, if you would have asked me when I first read this, I probably would have put it in B tier, but something in my heart is kind of telling me to put it in A tier, which is surprising, but I have fond memories of it. Baby Teeth, definitely A tier. That was one of few thrillers this year that I really liked. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, D. That was on my worst books of 2022. I wouldn't say Burn It With Fire, but it was just like, ugh, it was boring. Bunny is pretty S tier. Pretty S tier. It just missed being on my best books of 2022. Cackle, C. It was fine. The audiobook was good. It just was like, meh. The Collector by John Fowles. Ooh. I think A tier. Yeah, I feel good about A tier. The Cormorant, let's also put that in A tier. That was very, very creepy. Okay, Alice Feeney, Daisy Darker. This was kind of underwhelming to me, but it wasn't all bad. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. And also, I'm like tier ranking these, but it's not like It Chooses You is the best of the A tier or anything. That would be a little bit too masochistic to try and absolutely rank everything that I read. So I'm just doing it by the tiers. Dark Matter was a D tier. This was one that I forgot to talk about in my worst books of 2022. sorry about that, but people really like this book. So I guess if you liked it, I love that for you, not for me. Dear Laura, that was B tier. That was pretty spooky, but it just didn't quite hit for me. It was still good though. Like, I would still recommend. Deeper the water, the uglier the fish, also B tier. There were definitely some things that I really liked, but then it just fell a little flat. The Deep, I'm kind of stuck between D and C. I think I'm gonna go with C. Again, it had some good things, but I'm just such a bitch about any sort of science fiction that's in horror. I'm so tough on it because it just really takes me out of it when the science is so egregiously wrong. I mean, I get it, you know, he's not a scientist, but just for me personally, there were some things I was like, ugh, just bugged. Deserter, S tier. Junji Ito is good shit always. Devil All the Time, S tier. That was one of my best books of 2022. Diary of an Oxygen Thief. I'm gonna put this, you know, I want to put this in A. I really liked this. I really liked it when I read it, but my heart is actually saying maybe I should put it in B. It was good though. I really liked it. The Deloriad, hated. Wished I liked it, but I didn't. It made me feel dumb. Everyone in this room will someday be dead, S tier. That was also one of my best books. Extasia, S tier. Fever Dream, S tier. These bad boys were in my best books of 2022 and you should read them. If you haven't read them yet, what are you doing? Finley Donovan is killing it. That was pretty B tier. That was good. That was fun. That was a romp. I don't need to read the rest of the series, but it was fun. It was a fun audiobook. It was what I needed at the time. First Bad Man, S tier. Good shit. Flayed Corpse, D tier. I didn't like it. Not quite Burn It With Fire, but just wasn't for me. Flicker in the Dark was pretty D tier as well. Pretty run-of-the-mill thriller. Nothing really that new happening. I tried to read The Flowers of Evil by Shuzo Oshimi because I really like Blood on the Tracks by him, but pretty C tier. I read the first 2 volumes and I don't feel compelled to finish the series. Free Will by Sam Harris, that's a tricky one. I'm gonna put this in, I'm stuck between B and C. My heart is saying I didn't like it, but I can't tell if I actually didn't like it or if what he was describing just made me feel uncomfortable because I couldn't argue against it, and I don't like the idea of us not having free will. But you know what? I'm going with my heart. I'm putting it in C tier. F you, Sam Harris. I'm doing what I want. Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. That was pretty good. Fell a little flat though, so let's do B. Gone to See the Riverman. Ooh. Me likey. That's going in S tier. The Good Earth graphic novel. I'd say B tier. I am pretty biased with this because I love the original classic, The Good Earth, but the graphic novel obviously wasn't as good. Grip of It. I kind of want to put this in F tier. I really didn't like that. I don't want the Deloriad to be all alone in F tier either. I feel kind of bad. I don't want to like shit all over Missouri Williams. So yeah, I think The Grip of It was really bad. I mean, Burn It With Fire. I wouldn't say Burn It With Fire, but just like don't even pick it up if you see it at the bookstore. Oh, I feel bad for saying that, but it's true. Gut Shot by Amelia Gray. I love Amelia Gray, but I am just not a short story girly, so B tier. Haikyuu, S tier. Love that series. Love it. Okay, next is Happiness by Shuzo Oshimi. Another one I was trying because I absolutely love Blood on the Tracks, but this was another C tier. I don't feel compelled to finish the series. Head Full of Ghosts, I didn't like. D tier. So this is the one Paul Tremblay where I was like, why do people like you? Hellboy Krampusnacht. Not good. I wouldn't say Burn It With Fire, but yeah, it's bad. Like D, okay, let's rename D and F because I don't want you to think that I actually like am all for burning books because I'm definitely not. D tier is, it was bad and I didn't like it, but I understand if you like it. I guess, okay, maybe F tier is I didn't like it and I don't understand why people like it. Okay, that's better. The Hike by Drew McGarry. That is some good shit, so that's going in S tier. That was one of my best books of 2022. Home Before Dark. Ugh, I really didn't like this one, but I guess I kind of see why people like it, so fine, D tier. Horrid was bad, but I see why people like it. We're doing D tier. House of Hollow, I liked. This was kind of a sleeper cell. I wasn't expecting to like this. I kind of want to put this in A tier. It was pretty good. I liked that. House was meh, but it did have this really cool thing where there wasn't any dialogue in it, so I respect that he was able to communicate the character's emotions and motivations through just facial expressions and body language. So C tier. Hysteria by Jessica Gross. This was really similar to Aesthetica for me in that it was pretty good, but there were just some elements that fell kind of flat for me. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is a pretty good memoir. It was really, really good, but I don't ever need to really reread it. I don't feel compelled to own it, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. I'm thinking of ending things. I'm gonna say B tier. It was pretty good, but I made the mistake of watching the movie first, and the movie was bad. I really hated the movie. It made me feel dumb. In the Dream House by Carmen Marie Machado. So this is another bomb memoir. This is about as close to S tier as a memoir can get for me. In the Miso Soup. I also really liked that one. That can go A tier. Okay, Killing Stalking. S tier for show. That was one of my best books of the year. Krampus. Bad. One of my worst books of the year. Didn't like it. Lᵒᵛᵉᵧ. D tier. I didn't hate it. Oh, no, sweetie. You're going in D. I didn't dislike this one as much as my other autism that I read this year, but I just don't think she's for me. I'm sad about that too. The Laws of the Skies. S tier, baby. We love violence against children. No, we don't. That sounds so bad. Okay, no. I have to take that out. Life as We Knew It. I didn't really like that much, but it's a young adult and I read it in January when I was still trying to find my footing, so I'm not really gonna fault it that much. Lifestyles of Gods and Monsters. Kind of a similar thing. D tier. Didn't really like it. Liminal Zone. Junji Ito. S tier. Obviously. Local Woman Missing. Really liked this one too. I'm putting that in A. That was one of the few good thrillers. That's what's kind of frustrating about thrillers to me, is that some I really do like and I'm like, dang, yeah, that's really inventive. And then others I'm just like, bro, you didn't contribute anything new to the genre. Long Way Down. This was so sad, it made me scream cry in my car when I was listening to the audiobook, so I think that deserves to go in S tier. Love Sickness, another Junji Ito in S tier. Who's surprised? Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris. This was pretty funny. I'm gonna put it in B. That was a pretty funny audiobook. He read it, so I would recommend that. Memoirs of a Geisha. I really like this book. I know it might be like problematic because it's written by a white man, but this is a really great story. I really like it. I'm putting it in A tier. I like it. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. This was pretty good. I kind of wish that I had read this for a book club or for a class, because I think I could have enjoyed it more if I had other people to talk to about it, but I didn't. So I'm gonna put it in C. I definitely get why people like it though. I see how influential it's been for modern horror. I get it. So no disrespect. All right, Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. Me Likey. That was one of my favorite books of the year. That was funny. Model Home was bad and just boring. Really boring. I kind of want to put it in F. Should I do it? Should I be mean? I like to be mean. A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is also very, very, very good. I'm putting this in A tier. I really like this book. It's very pretty, has cool illustrations. Oh, we're running out of room. Mostly Dead Things. I freaking love this book. I just love Kristen Arnett's writing. She is such a funny lady. That's going in A tier. I have fond memories of that. Mother Thing was amazing and I loved it. That's going in S. My Dark Vanessa. That's pretty S tier. Well, this made me feel deeply uncomfortable, and this was one of the most disturbing books I read last year, so I think I gotta put it in S. My Sister the Serial Killer. God, this had such good bones. I had such high hopes for this, and the author built up such potential for character development, and then I just wasn't satisfied. So I'm putting this in D. It was My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I think I'm also gonna put this in D, but I need you all to know that I disliked My Year of Rest and Relaxation more than I disliked lᵒᵛᵉᵧ, okay? So lᵒᵛᵉᵧ is probably like a D+, and this is like a D-. That's important. Okay, Nana. I had some problems with this, but I think it had some good things, so I'm putting this in C. New Animal, I loved. S tier. Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. This was also very, very good, but I had some issues. I would say this is like top of B. This is like B+. Nijigahara Holograph, also very, very good. I'm putting this in A. Ninth House. I also really liked this one, surprisingly, so I'm putting that in A. No End Will Be Found by Gretchen Felker Martin. So this was a short story about one of the most prolific witch burnings of like the witch trials in, I think, Europe, but I just didn't vibe with the writing. Really didn't vibe, so I'm gonna put this in D. No One Belongs Here More Than You by Miranda July. This was similar to Gut Shot for me by Amelia Gray, so I'm putting this in B. Notes on Execution I didn't like, but I understand why people like it. Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw. Really didn't like this one. Really didn't like it. Nothing Can Hurt You by Nicola May Goldberg. Loved this one. That's going in A. Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. That was also really, really good. Really funny audiobook. That's going in A. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I really wanted to like this one more, but it just kind of fell a little flat for me, so I'm gonna put this in C. Una Out of Order I didn't like, but I get why people like. It's just not for me. Orochi Blood by Kazuo Umezu. This was good. This was really good. My first Kazuo Umez. I'm putting that in A. Our Wives Under the Sea. Controversial. I didn't really like this one. I know a lot of people really, really did, but for me it was just like, It was fine. So that's going in B. Paradise, S tier, me likey. Penpal, S tier, me likey again. Pew by Catherine Lacey. I'm gonna put this in A. I think this is like an A minus. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter was also really good. That goes in A. The Push by Ashley Audrain was really good. That's going in A. The Ravens, we already know I didn't like, but I get why people like it. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. So again, this is another thriller that I really liked. That's going in A. The Ruins by Scott Smith. I really liked this one. I'm putting this in S. Love that movie too. Sabriel by Garth Nix. This is a book that I'm no longer able to be objective about because I have so many sentimental feelings about it. So yeah, this was a reread from when I was in middle school. That's going in S tier. Only the Cat Knows by Rian Meng. This was pretty good. There were like some things that I didn't 100% love, so we're going in B. Chameleon in a Candy Store did not need to be written, and all of the good things that were in Diary of an Oxygen Thief were no longer here in this sequel. Oh, okay, Sam. So this is going in F tier. It was bad. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara was very good. I understand why people like it. I also understand why people don't like it though, but I really enjoyed it, so I'm putting that in A. Painter of the Night. This was freaking good. I binged this in basically one night, and I had to stop reading because the author has just literally not made any more. So S tier, I liked it a lot. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This was not good. I did not like this, but again, I do get why people like it, so fine, you can go in D. Censor. So this was the one Junji Ito where I was like, Junji, you have let me down for once in my life. I kind of didn't like this one. I'm putting this in C. That's my lowest rated Junji Ito ever. Serious Concerns by Wendy Cope. It was pretty meh. Poetry is another really subjective thing, so it just wasn't for me, I think. That's going in C. Hey, you scared me really bad. Okay, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides was not good. I really didn't like this one. I'm gonna be a hater. I'm putting it in F. Slewfoot by Brom was a banger. 5-star banger. That was one of my favorite books of the year. Going in S. Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan was also really good. And it was a very quiet winter book. So I think I read it at the right time. I'm gonna put that in A. That was pretty good. Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. One of my worst books of the year. I'm also gonna put that in F. Let's be haters. Demon Slayer. I love Demon Slayer. I can't be objective about it anymore, so that's going in S. Tenders the Flesh was really freaking good. That's going in A. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. This wasn't objectively good, but there was just something so weird about it. I really enjoy authors that aren't afraid to get weird. So that, I'm gonna put in B. All right, This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I don't know why that cover looks so cray-cray. I'm gonna put this in C. It was fine. Threats. Love this. You know what? I gotta actually put this at the very tippy top because I love her. To Be Devoured by Sarah Tanslinger. This was another one that narrowly escaped being on my best books of 2022 list. This was very good. I'm putting that in A tier. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was pretty good. I see why people like it. I'm gonna put it in B. The Troop by Nick Cutter. Really freaking good, and I really liked it. I'm putting it in S. Venus in the Blind Spot. Pretty good, but I can't remember so much about it, so I'm gonna put it in A and not S. We Can Never Leave This Place by Eric LaRocca. This was a surprise. This one was really good, so I'm putting that in S. Okay, we had to remove this post. I actually really like this book. So many people were hating on this book, but I really liked it. I'm putting it in A. We Need to Do Something by Max Booth III. I didn't like this. I don't have fond memories of this. I think I'm gonna put it in D. We Were Liars, D. Boring. Whisper Down a Lane. This was good. This also narrowly missed being in my best books of 2022, so that's going in S. Whisper by Yuko Chang was pretty good, but some things felt kind of flat. With Teeth by Kristen Arnett. I really like this. I just love her writing. She's going in A. The Woman in the Window. There were some things that were shocking to me, so I will give it that. But it was just like no. So I think D for me. Your House is on Fire, Your Children All Gone. Another one that narrowly missed being in my best. This was really good. I'm putting that in S. Your Wound, My Garden by Alok Vaid Menon. One of my best books of the year. That's going in S. Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. This was surprising. I was not expecting anything in this book, really, but I really liked this. So I'm putting this in A. At Night All Blood is Black by David Diop. This was one of the most thought-provoking books I read this year. I have not stopped thinking about it since I read it, so it has to be A. Anybody Home by Michael Seidlinger. Kind of meh for me. Wanted more. Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. Really, really good. There were just a couple things that kind of just weren't a total hit for me, but for the most part, it was really, really good, so I'm gonna put it in B. Black Project by Gareth Brooks. Honestly, the novelty of the art style was really cool, but the story was kind of meh, so I'm putting it in C. Blood on the Tracks. Love this series. S tier. Cabin at the End of the World. Love this book. S tier. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This was fine. I'm gonna put it in B. My heart's saying B. Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. I will say I didn't anticipate the twist, so fine. I'll put you in C. Come Closer by Sarah Gran, 5-star banger. Crying in H Mart, another phenomenal memoir. So that can also go in A with my other amazing memoirs. And that is it, guys. This looks so cool. I'm happy that S and A tier are the most populated. I'm really happy with this. I love the look of this. Really happy. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching. That was my merciless tier ranking, making spur of the moment decisions about all the books I read in 2022. So you can like this video if you want, comment. What were your S tier books? What were your F tier books? Was anything on this list really surprising to you? Let me know down below. You can subscribe if you want. I would love to have ya. And thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. Goodbye.